Hi, welcome to Weaving the Strands of School Librarianship. First years in the library can be very challenging, and we found a large part of our job is similar to the idea of weaving together a beautiful tapestry. There are separate parts, but when you put them all together, it makes a tapestry that reflects your school library community. You can access this presentation by using the URL provided at the top right of your screen. I'm Trisha Goins. I am in my second year as librarian at Coppell High School.
I am Kate Mancuso, and I am in my second year as a librarian at Town Center Elementary.
I'm Lily Monson, and I am going into my second year as a librarian at Denton Creek Elementary.
And I'm Natalie Wade. I'm going into my second year as the librarian at Richard J. Lee Elementary.
So we've curated, and we haven't curated, we want to curate ideas to share with you. So we've created a Jamboard. It's a Google product similar to Padlet. And if you can click on that link, we would love for you to share your ideas and build your PLN with us. Coppell is located in the DFW area. We're a smaller suburban district. We have 18 members on our team, and we all work together on a district level to maintain consistency across campuses and uphold standards for future ready librarians. Our district has a set of core values that also drives all of the work that we do.
Our first year in the middle of a pandemic, we'd like to share our reflections and what we learned specifically related to relationships, programming, and administrative tasks.
I'm going to start us off by talking about relationships. First, I would say you need to meet your school staff. Introduce yourself to everyone, as many people as possible. Unlike teachers who will work with just a small team or a department, librarians are there for all. So you want to meet people. At the same time, sometimes being a librarian can feel like an island since no one has quite the same role as you. But find your people. Find out who you go to for different problems. If it's the principal, the secretary, or find teachers who are willing to try new things and work with you. Attend grade level teacher planning meetings to collaborate with teachers and listen. Then, after you've had time to listen, you can offer suggestions on ways you can collaborate and assist the classroom teachers with projects and research and other fun activities. Find your leadership role on your campus. Promote yourself as a person teachers can come to help with research, for the curriculum. There's so much promotion going on for the library. We're always sending little chocolates and candies and just trying to find ways to connect with teachers and let them know we're here for them. Collaborate with other librarians in your district. Find a mentor librarian who you can ask questions and who you can bounce off ideas. Work smarter, not harder. Share things that work for you with other librarians in your district. And while every campus is different, there are things that can work across the district. So take things that other people are sharing and share things as well. Think about upcoming holidays and events and celebrate them across the district. Work with the public library, promote their programs, and if possible, create partnerships. For example, pre-pandemic, I took my fourth graders on a field trip to the public library, and we showed them where they could find books in the library that would be at their level. And I know in previous years, the high schoolers have gone to the public library to sign up for library cards. We want to develop lifelong readers, so we want to not only promote our library, but public libraries as well. And then meet the students in your building. Make your library open and inviting. Talk to the kids about what they enjoy reading. Read the books in your library. Share recommendations with kids. Create an online library community or other learning platform. We use Schoology, but any learning platform would be great. Share books and event happenings in your community with your learners.
Hi. So you're already going to see how some of these different ideas are beginning to overlap. And that's how we're weaving together these different strands. I'm going to talk to you about programming, understanding the expectations, focusing on a joy of reading, share your passion, and communicate. Beginning with understanding expectations, it's important to start with your administration and know what are the stated and unstated expectations. Some of you may be coming into a situation where you're handed a schedule of when you will be meeting with classes. Others, it will be up to you. Really work towards being very mindful in your scheduling, that you have time to see classes, whether that is in person. Maybe you're at a school where you are able to host, or you will be able to host students in the library. Maybe you have a mobile library cart, which I did quite a bit this year because we were in a hybrid situation with some students on campus, some students virtual. Or maybe you have a set scheduled Zoom time that you are meeting with classes. We've all had to learn to pivot in this time of a pandemic. So as you're thinking of that scheduling, whether it is pencil and paper in a planner, a Google Calendar, I use a Google spreadsheet, put in students and teachers first, but then also make sure you look at where the holes are and block in that time for inventory, shelving, creating programming, and lessons, and lunch. Don't forget to give yourself time to eat lunch. If you can find another person to eat with, that goes back to what Kate said previously about building relationships, even if that's a Zoom time. Those are important. On your calendar, you may not always use that time you've blocked off that says book inventory for book inventory. Maybe you use that time for shelving, maybe you use that time for weeding, maybe you use that time for book ordering. But if you know you have those tasks on your calendar, you'll be more likely to get them accomplished. It's also a way to reflect to yourself and your administration and staff exactly what it is that you do. I think some of librarianship can be a little hidden. So for them to see all of the different tasks that are woven into making the library function is very important. Next, think about the joy of reading. Students come to you for books that they want to read, not necessarily that they have to read. Focus on the enjoyment and fun. Make it less about prizes, parties, and points, and more about enjoyment. I've linked in here different celebrations and state lists. Each one of these should have some additional resources where, as a place to start, think about what's one of these you could focus on per semester or per grading level as you grow your programming in your library and your ability. You'll also see pretty quickly where the excitement is and what grade levels are more, or teachers are more willing to collaborate with you. Share your passion. As school librarians and public schools, we come from a teaching and educator background. So think about your past experiences and how they could connect to something in programming. If you were a fourth grade science teacher and that was your love, then maybe you're reach out to your fourth grade teachers first and think of a way you could do a makerspace or partner with them on researching in their science units. If you love the idea of coding and you see a kindergarten teacher willing to do some coding on iPads, then reach out and find a way to partner with them. Communicate, communicate, communicate. You will over communicate, or at least feel that way your first year, because you're looking to find the way that will actually reach the most people. For students, consider learning management systems like Schoology, Google Classroom, or Teams in the time of the pandemic, whether it's a hybrid situation you're leaning into, all virtual, all in person. Those digital learning management systems are an important way to communicate and program. Book talks, ask a librarian time, even just a virtual lunch bunch. I've done that quite a few times in the last several months, are a great way to connect with students. For staff and parents, a monthly newsletter. So S'mores, if you've never used one, this is a great digital tool. You can add in resources, quick tech tips, ideas. And I would suggest, this has worked well for me, of highlighting teachers you've collaborated with successfully. Everyone likes to be thanked and highlighted in some way, and that would encourage other teachers to continue to collaborate with you. Enlist your staff and administration. Think about staff meetings. Ask for 5 to 10 minutes and make sure you don't go over it. Showcase what's coming up. Find something quick you can teach or highlight, and bring chocolate if you're able to, or share some kind of praise for the others on your staff. And so that is going to bring us to administrative tasks.
All right, so moving into administrative tasks, you're going to notice a lot of the themes and points with administrative tasks tie into some of the things that Lily touched on with programming. Number one, it's super important to maintain open lines of communication. So some really important questions to ask in the beginning of your first year are, what am I in charge of? And then also, who can I go to if I have questions about blank? Because you're going to have a lot of questions throughout your first year. So, for example, I go to my secretary for questions about how to place orders, my principal for questions about my budget, and then my coordinator or mentors or other librarians within my district for questions that I have about collection development, weeding, and all of those tasks related to kind of library management. So again, it's really important to get a good idea in the beginning of what's expected to you and just where to go if you need help. And then also learning from the best, but then remembering to tweak systems to fit your style is super important to remember in your first year. It can be very overwhelming to look at what other librarians are doing, especially if they've been librarians for a while, but it's always important to go back to kind of making the library fit the needs of your specific school community and just fit your style as a librarian. So inspiration from mentors can come within your district, and even if you don't have a strong collaboration network within your district, it can come from places outside of your district as well. I've linked some really great groups here on Facebook: Future Ready Librarians, Future Ready Secondary Librarians, and then Learning Librarians. These are really great places to go just to kind of establish thought partners, get different ideas for programming and administrative tasks, develop mentors, ask questions, different things like that. But also going back to that piece of making sure when you join collaborative networks like this, not to become overwhelmed by what everyone else is doing. Take ideas, make them your own, and design systems to fit your style and the needs of your school community. So this can be related to scheduling, library procedures, purchasing. No library is the same, so it's important to keep that in mind your first year. And then also just don't be afraid to pivot, especially your first year and in the middle of a pandemic. There will be things that don't work. There will be things that you need to change, but just making sure that you're always open to feedback from the people in your school community, mentors, teachers, students, and just kind of going with the flow of what your library needs. And don't be afraid to kind of step back, reflect on what's working, what's not, and make adjustments as needed.
And continuing on with some of those administrative tasks, making purchasing decisions is kind of overwhelming at first. You may or may not have access to previous year's budgets to kind of get a feel for how money has been spent and how you might want to spend your money. But one of those areas that you have to do that for is your collection. You may be in a library that needs a lot of TLC, or it's just a new library to you and you don't know what systems were in place or how those systems work. Purchasing takes a lot of time. Budgets are a huge part of both your programming and your collection and the life of your library. I have found it challenging to spend money to support all of the needs of the library. So take time to learn about your patrons and community. The stories are like mirrors and windows. Your patrons, they want to see themselves as mirrors in the books that they read, but also the books that you provide are windows so they can learn about others. So take time to look at your collection of books, seek out other librarians' blogs for ideas, discover different reading series, and see what's available on your shelves and what's not available. By taking time for reflection, you're going to learn what your patrons are looking for and where the holes are in your collection. Use your district's expectations. Look at state lists and national award lists of books. Seek out diverse titles. Use school library journal or Kirkus Review or book lists to help justify the purchasing decisions that you are making. This is a marathon. It is not a sprint. When you were in the classroom, you had 174 days with your students. The library is not going to grow and change overnight. It is going to be a process. It takes time, and make sure that you're giving yourself grace while you are growing.
All right. Well, I am going to wind up our presentation. We are so glad that you got to join us, and I wanted to make sure you saw that we are real librarians, and we are in our real offices, and you've probably heard some different things in the background, and that is a real view of your year as a librarian, is that you may have the best planning and programming go through, and then you have a student that needs a book right now, or a teacher that says, oh, won't you jump on this Zoom, or an administrator that's texting you. So these are the things that you're going to have, but you're going to weave those things together to make a bigger, more beautiful whole. We want to thank you for joining us. We've added our Twitter handles there, or you can jump on the Jamboard, and we hope that you will add your connection and just ideas of, if you haven't begun your librarian adventure yet, maybe ideas and things you hope to implement. If this is your first year, some things that worked or ways that you overcame your challenges. We hope you'll reach out via Twitter and on the Jamboard link there. As we share our challenges, we can weave together ideas and successes into a larger professional learning network. We wish you the best of luck on your first year, and we hope to be in contact with you. Please access in the tiny URL up at the top if you wanted to go back and reflect on some of the things we said. Please also stay on as we continue with a live Q&A. We thank you so much for joining us.